Okay, so I have my binding all sewed on the one side. This is where we sewed it on. The fronts. Okay, and then I flipped it over and I pinned it so far around the corner. I only pin it a little ways because if I pin the whole quilt, I jab myself a lot while moving my quilt around. So this is what it looks like on the right side as it's pinned together. So that's what it's going to look like once it's sewed down. But what we're going to do is sew the back side down by hand stitching it. So I have my thread, and it's the same as when you quilt. You just tie the one piece of thread, not both. And then what I'm going to do is tilt the camera down and see if you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, so I'm going to start here at the first pin. I'll start, after the first pin. When I start my thread, I put it between the layers of fabric. Okay. And what I do is, okay, so I don't want to put it through the whole way to the other side. We're just going to go between the fabrics, but we're catching this fabric to your binding. And then I'm going to take it and pull the knot, if I can do it, through so that it's hidden. Okay. And then what we're going to do is just do a little hidden stitch. We're going to go under the fabric like that and through, just like a 1/8 of an inch at a time. We're going to do 1/8 of an inch apart around there to 1/4 our stitches will be. So we're going to just go through, and they're really hard to see once you do them. I don't think you can see them. They're called a blind stitch, so you're not supposed to notice them. If you do if I did it in a white thread, you probably notice it a little more, but I'm doing it in the same color of a light blue thread so that it matches and that you won't see it as much. And so I'm going to go through the middle of the fabrics, and you're going to come out here, if you can see it, and pull it through so that it's kind of hidden. That's why they call it a blind stitch. So right where your thread is stopped, right here, right where the thread is, that's where we're going to put the needle in, and then go in about a 1/4 of an inch or 1/8 of an inch, go in between the fabrics, and then pull it through. You can barely see it. So right where your thread is, you're going to go underneath the binding and just catch the very bottom of the binding where it meets the thread that you sewed it, because there's a thread line here where you sewed it on the other side, and we want that covered up. So when you pull your binding down, you want it to cover up that thread line, so you're not going to see the thread line. Okay, so I'm going to keep going along the thread line at the bottom of my binding, go in the middle of the fabric, and do what we're calling a blind stitch, because you don't want to see it. You want it hidden. hidden stitch. Okay, hope you guys can see that. It's kind of hard to see it when it's the same color of your fabric, but you get the point. But you don't want your needle showing on the other side, like going clear through. So right there, I went clear through so I can see my needle. So I'm gonna take that out. I mean, it doesn't really, it's not a big deal, but if you do it the whole way across, you'll notice it more. And if you have a different colored thread, it's just gonna show up. And you don't want that. You want it hidden between the fabrics. But you want to catch enough of this fabric so that it's gonna hold your binding down. That's what it looks like when you have it sewn from here to here. Okay, I'm getting my thread up a little bit too high. I don't want to get it too high onto the binding. I like to keep it low and close to the sew line from the other side. Now here I'm coming to a pin, and what I'm going to do is take the pin out. I'm going to bring it clear over here to where my last pin was, and I'm going to stick it in here. So we're just going to keep trading pins. We're going to keep moving them around. And as you can see, there's the sew line from sewing it on the opposite side right here. And what we're going to do is fold the binding down and cover up that seam line and then pin it. And that's where we're going to sew down a little bit below that seam line. So I'm going to come back over here where I left my needle. And sometimes I get a knot in my thread, so there it is. Okay, so you're going to just keep sewing that along until you get your binding all sewn on. It takes me about a couple days to do binding. I'll just work on it an hour, maybe an hour or two at a time, usually while I'm watching TV or something. But for a baby quilt, it probably takes me a couple days to get it put on, because I don't work on it, you know, the whole 4 or 5 hours it takes to get it on. Sometimes it takes me 3 days till I got it done. But it's up to you. It's whatever pace you want to work at, but that's usually what I do. I just work on it a little at a time, usually in the evenings. If I'm sitting down to watch TV or something, I'll, you know, sew on my binding, which I usually do that with my quilting too. I just sit down and sew, do my quilting in the evening too if I'm watching TV. Sometimes I gotta be careful with that, because if I'm watching TV too closely, then not watching what I'm doing while I'm quilting, and then I have messed up stitches that way. So sometimes I can't do 2 things at once. So I'm gonna keep going along here, so you guys see how I have my needle in there, and then you just push it through. And you can see if I pull it through the stitch. Okay, and then you go right where your thread ended or is hanging out, and you put it through again and pull the thread. So I'm going to keep going around the quilt till I get more done, get it finished. And you guys keep quilting, keep working at it, and you'll have it done soon. I'm almost done. This is my most favorite part of the quilt. It's like the icing on the cake. So when I'm done with the binding, I'm happy. Finished another job. So I can start a new project. I already start thinking of new projects when I'm on my binding because I think, oh, what else am I going to make next? So it's kind of exciting. But you guys keep quilting and have fun doing it and have a good day. All right, bye.